Hey, welcome back to the Financial Style channel. This is the second review of The Apprentice, Season 16, Episode 2, my reaction, and of course, those all-important business lessons. Now, if you're returning to the channel, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like the videos and comment. Let me know what you think. And if you're new, welcome. I hope by the end of today's video, you'll consider subscribing. For those who don't know, I'm Marisha Stevenson. I've been in business now for over 20 years as a strategist and business consultant, meaning that primarily my work has been to build businesses. I like to make businesses money, save them money, or do a combination of both. And what's important for me and for my clientele is making their businesses bigger and stronger. So when I watch programs like The Apprentice, I realize there are so many lessons for us to learn. Mistakes I've made myself in the past, things I've learned from in the past, things I've even taught my clients as the years have gone on, and things that we can definitely learn as we move forward. And now it is time for us to get into what was episode 2 of The Apprentice. Now you can probably tell from the title of today's video that we have got some more poo-poo products. We have got a running theme, but I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's roll it back to the beginning. Now, first of all, let me tell you why I don't think I would work very well on The Apprentice. I am not getting up in the morning at 4:30 in the middle of the night for someone to tell me that I've only got half an hour to make it look like I woke up like this. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. For those of you that are into your millionaire morning where you wake up at 5 o'clock, good for you, child, because at that point, the only thing I'm looking at is the back of my eyelids because I'm not doing it. But they get a phone call, 4:30 in the morning. Naveed picks up the phone and they get told they're going into central London to a dental headquarter. Okay, some kind of dentist place. I don't know where it's at, but there's monitors there. And because Lord Sugar, like the rest of us, ain't trying to get up at 4:30 in the morning, he appears on a screen like a fairy to deliver the task. And he says that the dental industry is a £60 billion market. He's right. I mean, do you know how much it costs for veneers? There's people out here remortgaging their houses just for a smile. That kind of money, okay? So, you know, he wants a little slice of the pie, as Lord Sugar does whenever he hears about the money. Can't knock him. I'm on the same page. So he says you're going to create a toothbrush for 6 to 8 year olds and an accompanying app. And he gives them a bit of an example as to, you know, what the purpose of the app will be. Now, this is important, okay, because it speaks to where this is all going to end up. So he basically shows that it's an educational app that goes alongside this electric toothbrush. Okay, you with me? Right. So I'm thinking this can't be so difficult. Everybody's got teeth. Half of these people must have children or know people with children. Let's see how this is all going to map out. So we start with the girls. Of course, we've got that all important, we must choose a PM, okay? And Sharma is the first one to put her hands up and say, listen, I'm a nursery owner. She's got 4 boys, remember. She's like, I know the children. I want to be project manager. Francesca, not to be beaten out after last week, pitched in the way that you should when you want a job. Francesca started telling people about her CV going back to 1984 and why she was qualified to do this job. I said, okay then girl, I don't think you're going to lose this one. So she called a vote and she was voted in. So where she failed last week, she succeeded this week. On the boys team, Aaron says, I've got 2 young girls. I know children. I can do this. And because these guys are not exactly the most adventurous of men out here, they're all like, yeah, all right. Similar to last week, really. Nobody fighting over PM role. They're just like, yeah, okay, do what you want. So Francesca says straight away The theme is space, okay? Somebody said, do you want a rocket? She said, no, child, I don't want no rocket. I said space, okay? She does a bit of a Catherine, starts telling everybody how it's going to be. They're trying to input their ideas, give them, you know, give a little bit of space for that. Francesca's like, don't talk to me. I ain't trying to listen to you. Considering she did not appreciate that behaviour from Catherine last week, I was a little bit disappointed in Francesca. I was like, girl, okay, last week you were complaining that nobody was listening to you about bougie. Now you up in here acting all bougie with the leadership. Okay, this is what we're doing. All right, darling, fair enough. So she does a bit of a Catherine and just tells everybody about their business and what it is that they're going to do. She appoints Amy sub-team leader again, which I found quite interesting. But I suppose because last week the girls won, nobody really realised that, you know, I think it was Brittany and Co steamrollered over Amy last week. So they're like, okay, she got this. Oh, all right, no, fair enough. And she says to them, you're going to be the branding team, okay? I think because of Amy's background, I suppose it made sense. So Amy said, listen, I'm a mum. I've got a 5-year-old. I've got this in the bag. I know how to brand to a 5-year-old. You know, I know what I'm doing. And so on that basis, Francesca says, great, Catherine, Brittany and Sophie, join Amy on the branding team. And the rest of the girls, you're going to be with me on the app team, including Sharma. So Sharma says, whoa, Pony, hold up a second. Listen, you know, I run a nursery. The experience that I have is much more conducive to the educational element. Now you heard that word again, didn't you? The educational development of young people. I know what I'm doing where that's concerned. So I would much rather be on the branding team. But Francesca said, listen, okay, I need a mom to be, there's 2 moms in the group. I need one of y'all to be with me and one to be over there in branding. So you're going to come with me and work on the app team. We said, okay. Then we move over to the boys team. Now, you know these lot ain't got no sense in it. So, as Aaron announced that he's got 2 girls, when it comes to picking the sub-team now, Connor, Mr. Connor, who didn't have anything to say last week. Oh, Connor's front and centre this week. So Connor stands up and says, listen, apps, I'm an app developer. I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert. Take note, okay? Take note. Warning number 1, be careful what you announce you're an expert in. If you ain't got no qualifications nor experience in said thing, okay, even if you think you're slightly good at it, just be careful on big TV how you telling people you're an expert. But okay then. So, Connor says, I'm in app development, I've got this, I can do app development. Aaron says, okay, cool. Now, I've got to be honest with you, Aaron also did a little bit of a Francesca and Catherine by telling everybody how it was going to be. But here's the thing that I do rate Aaron for, okay? Because giving good direction as a leader, I think is really, really important. And I feel like Aaron was clear about what his brief was. Aaron said, our theme is magic and wizards. What kid doesn't love magic? All the guys agree. He says, listen, we need to come up with something that's unisex and we need to come up with something that is going to blow these kids' socks off, okay? He was a bit more specific than that. He puts, with Connor, on the designing app team, Nick, Akeem and Akshay, okay? And he says, right, his exact words, I want this to be interactive, and I would like there to be an option for the wizard to be either male or female when they sign up and join the app. I'm thinking to myself, Aaron has been pretty clear. We know what time it is. So Connor throws in what I think he probably thought was a really clever stipulation, but actually was not. So Connor turned around and Connor said, well, hold up a second. Let's do that. But if we have no choice and we can't actually develop the option of a male or female, then let's just go for male, okay? To which Aaron sort of said, well, all right, if we must. But what Aaron did not know was what he was just agreeing to, because as soon as Connor got in the car, he started pitching to the other guys how this wizard was going to have to be male. He even started naming the wizard. This man had the whole audacity to come out with Willie the Wizard. And I'm like, first of all, we know back in the day we had like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory and all of this. We know that, but come on now. It is 2022, blood. I'm guessing when you did this, it was 2021. But either way, it is 2020 something. We ain't got no time for no Willy. Akeem. I feel like if we didn't know that Akeem was black because his name's Akeem, then we would know Akeem was black because Akeem came up with Wilfred, which I don't know, like, that just feels like a very black name to me. Like, it feels like, you know, old Caribbean man. Wilfred, name. I mean, I'm being extremely stereotypical over here, but I'm just saying. I don't think Akeem's Caribbean, but we'll put that to the side. Anyway, both of them rubbish, okay? I think it was Nick that was like, well, I think Nick said, I'm not here for the Willy. And Akshay was like, I do not like Wilfred. In the end, they ended up combining the two and came up with Wilfie, the wizard. Okay. We go back to this. But I think this is where the boys have a pattern for me. Okay, going back to what I witnessed them do last week. They rush. And they rush to make decisions, and they rush into it too much, and they don't really think it through, okay? Because, I mean, could you imagine your child running up the stairs? Oh, Mummy, I can't wait for Wilfie, the wizard, to brush my teeth with me. No, child, no, I can't imagine that. But I feel like they rush, and so they don't really think it through. We go back to the ladies now. Francesca is laying out her plan and telling everybody how it gonna be. She wants an orange, she wants an orange toothbrush. I almost forgot what it was. She wants an orange toothbrush. She don't want no rockets, like I said before. You know, she's got some base ideas. The girls are looking at her like, you are basic. So you know the way last week Catherine was bougie, this heifer is basic. They're just like, she basic, okay? So they're just looking at her like, yeah, no. As soon as you turn your back, we're going to change the idea, which is basically what they did. They called it zhuzhing it up. And as soon as, of course, she said no rockets, and what's the first thing the girls do? Put a rocket on the design. But what was interesting was when we moved over to the app team to see what Francesca's team was doing. And I think, again, a really important aspect of business, particularly when it comes to product, is to really understand the need of your target market, okay? Your market is 6 to 8 year olds. What do 6 to 8 year olds do? Now, here's the thing, because I don't have any children, right? I've got a niece and nephew that I would say fall in that age group, okay? 6, 7, 8. They fall into that age group. And what's interesting to me, if I reflect on what it is that they're interested in puzzles, they're interested in, you know, they love the concept of games, they like that kind of idea. And, you know, certainly for my niece, she's very much in a stage of kind of mimicking adults. Do you know what I mean? It's like she want to be grown. Like if I try to figure out what to buy for my niece, like say for Christmas, I'm being for real. I bought her what I would wear. The child version and the age appropriate version. But I'd buy her handbags and purses and little jackets and coats and these sorts of things that, honestly speaking, I would wear in the big people version. Do you know what I mean? So I say that to say that it's really important for you to understand that. Now, I think this is where Francesca demonstrated some understanding of that age group in terms of them wanting to be bigger than they are and, you know, not underestimating the age group. But girlfriend, she forgot the word educational when designing this app and basically came up with a whole load of foolishness. So to summarise, you end up in the girls team with a situation where all of the girls on the branding team have expressed that they think the product and the logo just looks a little bit too immature. They're all saying, my concern is that might be for a younger child, maybe 3 or 4 in terms of the imagery. Amy, the lady with the 5-year-old, is like, no, my son would love this. My son would love this. My son would go for this. So they're going, okay, maybe that's the direction we need to go in. Francesca shows that she has an understanding of what 6 to 8 year olds like in terms of attractions and, you know, that idea of them doing stuff, but forgets about the entire educational aspect of it and really fails to tell the story in her. We go back to the boys, and it seems to me that poor Aaron, the only program he's seen that contains magic and wizards is Harry Potter, because he keeps going on about the brown wand, and he designs a toothbrush, an electric toothbrush that is brown with a little sort of lightning bolt on it and a bit of a lightning bolt at the head, or, you know, pop it on the screen, to basically demonstrate that it is a wand. What I love is when the prototype comes back the next day, he thinks it's fabulous. Naveed is the one jumping in and saying, listen, I feel like it needs to be a bit more colourful. You know, why can't we have an orange wand or a completely different coloured wand? Aaron, no, the wand is brown, the wand is brown, and the wand is brown. So I'm already starting to see how this is going slightly downhill, because I'm like, what is it with you lot and brown and green? What is it with you lot and brown and green? Is this going to be another poo-poo product? Then we move over to the app. Oh my God. So first of all, Wilfie, the wizard, looks like a weirdo. Sorry, but he does. I can't see any child on God's green earth looking at that wizard going, oh yeah, I want you to brush your teeth with me. The second thing is the making of the app. No, Akshay is not an actor. Don't let him do that again. He's not good at it. Let him stay in his lane. He's more of a director. Acting ain't his thing. And what we end up with is something that is a little bit more directional and educational, but is boring. Boring, boring, boring. Like, if I was going to apply to go on the Apprentice, if there is one subject that I would study and really get my head around, it would be branding. I mean, it's damn nearly in everything they do. But here we go. So we end up with the girls with babyish branding, and branding that's a bit of a turn off, and the boys that have a crappy looking wand toothbrush that doesn't really seem appealing at all, and a boring app. So I feel like the girls have kind of got one and a half things ish, and the guys have got not one. That's the way I put it. That's the way I put it. So before we move on to the actual pitches, what we see is some market research, okay? And this is where they get a chance to put their product in front of a group of children to get some feedback. Now, this is what I love about kids. This is what I love about kids, because number one, they're going to tell you how it is, and number two, 6 to 8 year olds are basically miniature adults. This is what they are. So they're there chilling in the chair like this, like, yeah, what do you think of the toothbrush? Oh, I think it looks a bit babyish. Yeah, one was like, this is for the girls. One of the kids was like, yeah, I think it's for really young people. You mean like you? No, I thought it was hilarious, but I loved their manner. So they didn't show them asking the kids if they actually wanted one, but I think they got their point across. Then we have the response of the kids for the boys product. Hilarious. Would you want your mommy and daddy to buy one of these? There's 3 girls in the room and there's 2 boys. One boy raises his hand. One of the girls raises her hand and he's like, so you want one? And she's like, oh, no. And puts her hand back down, which I think says it all about this toothbrush. And again, they were just like, we don't really like the colour. The only thing the kids that said that they said they liked the logo. I think they liked the idea that it was magical, but I don't really think they liked what it ended up becoming. Do you know what I mean? So I thought that was quite interesting as well. Now, this is where I have to say, when you wonder how these people got themselves on a national TV programme, okay, to, you know, do business, and you see them do ridiculous things almost every week. For me, I feel like, who was it? I'm pretty sure it was Nick. I feel like Nick's interpretation of the market research was actually quite genius. somewhat misleading and slightly dishonest, but you know, fair play to him. He turned around and he said, well, the good news is 50% of the target market thoroughly loved that product, and I think 50% is pretty good going. Hilarious, because 50% was one of the two boys, which I was pleased Alex managed to drill down to quite quickly. He was like, hold up a second. So what you're saying is there was two boys in the room, yeah, and we drilled down to the two boys. One out of the two. He said, okay then. So what we've got to realise is that the boys' product has gone left, okay? Because what it definitely is not is appealing to both sexes. The girls, fully not interested. The boys are like, yeah, some of them are. And one thing that I've witnessed, I can't speak for anybody else. Ladies, if you agree with me, I beg you place a comment down below and let me know. Is it just me, or do boys really like brown? Like really like brown? I couldn't tell you the number of people, male people, their go-to furnishing colour, brown. Anyway, we get to the pitches, okay? So in the pitching teams we have Francesca, Amy, and what was really quite interesting, I think it was Sophie, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but what I thought was really interesting was she dropped Sharma. I shouldn't even laugh. She dropped Sharma from the pitching team. Bless Sharma. Sharma was like, well, I was kind of disappointed that I wasn't going to get a chance to pitch because I was really looking forward to it, but okay then. And for the boys, the pitching team was Aaron, Alex and Connor. Now, I actually thought in terms of the teams, generally decent composition. One thing we've discovered with Francesca is a good pitcher. The way she pitched for that PM role, let us know. And Francesca's approach in the pitches, I think, ultimately led to the final result of this task. So you end up in a situation where, because I was at this point, I'm looking at the whole product, I'm looking at all of their proposition, I'm thinking, do you know what, for the girls, I'm thinking their name is pretty good, Brushing Magic, I think they called it. The design, generally good. It was very clearly unisex. Yes, it was probably a little bit younger than it should have been, but overall it was a decent looking product that a few tweaks would make it more applicable to a 6 to 8 year old. Likewise, the app clearly would have been appealing to that age group, just needed a better storyline and better execution. Looking at the guys, okay, the piece of something that was the toothbrush, not even slightly convincing. It was rubbish. It has to be said. It was like the more you looked at it, the more you were like, this is not working. That couldn't be in my bathroom. Do you know what I mean? I'd be thinking that things had happened in there that weren't supposed to happen. The app, boring. Dry and boring. Do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking, at this point, lads, not convinced, mate. Not convinced you're going to do it. Where I give Francesca her due, number one, she's an excellent speaker. Number two, she realises the situation that she's in. She recognises that she's selling a product and she's got to convince people to buy it. For that reason, everything they said, well, we're not sure about this, or we don't know if that would work for us. Francesca's like, child, we will change it. We will change it. Now, what I will say is that we didn't get loads of feedback for the girls, I don't think, in terms of the market research, to understand how much of that constructiveness was placed in her pitching, i.e. did she really pick up on the fact of what the kids were saying, and did she use that in the pitching environment to actually show that she understood the market and she knew her product. I'm not convinced that she did that, but that's what good pitching is about. And if you're going to do market research off the back of a prototype, and before you have time to make changes to that prototype, you are in front of the company you are pitching to, you want to show them that you have an awareness awareness of what the research is, and even start speaking to them about changes you would make. I do believe at one point Francesca basically said if they don't find a problem with it, don't say anything. I wouldn't do that. You know, I would say, well, we designed the prototype, and interestingly this morning we sat down with a group of 6 to 8 year olds and we asked them what they thought, and whilst fundamentally they liked it, they just felt that it could be a little bit more mature to reflect their interests as a product, and actually we're working on that. I don't know if the kids actually saw the app, so that's a different matter. But I give Francesca her due. She showed flexibility, and when they said we don't like it, Francesca's response was, hey, we can work on that, we can change it. That's a really important quality when you're thinking about going into a scenario where you are selling a product. So I give Francesca her due on that. She was clear on what she wanted to execute, and she executed it. I'll be honest with you, I feel like the other two were almost furniture, but there it goes. She handled the business. Then when we look at the boys pitching, oh Lord. So these guys basically said what everybody else was thinking. This product is not colourful enough. It is, one person actually described it as a turd. It looks like a turd. Have we been here before? We see the theme. Poo-poo products coming from the boys. I feel like next week, I beg, switch up these teams, please, because these boys ain't got no sense. Do you know what I mean? But anyway. And Aaron committed, in my view, a cardinal sin. And I believe it was in the second pitch to Superdrug, the high street pitch, when he basically was asked the question, listen, we don't like the colour of this product. We don't see how this would be appealing to kids. Would you be open to changing it? Okay, that is called a gift from God. This man, with the whole of his chest, said, no, one's a brown. And I was like, why have you only watched Harry Potter as your reference point? Why? So he messed that up. And I think it was at that point that I was like, these guys are going to lose. These guys are going to absolutely lose. Because whilst I was concerned on one hand that Francesca was too quick to be wanting to change everything, that lack of flexibility, who can work with that? Who can work with that? And when you're dealing with brands, you have to think about what the brand is representational of. They did 2 pitches, one to a healthcare company and one to Superdrug. Now, realistically, a healthcare company has health at its forefront, okay? So the educational aspect of that app would have been more important to them, I think, than even the product. They probably could have worked with the product. Superdrug wants something that's visually appealing and is going to work for the people that come into their store, and they know that mums are at the top of that agenda, and mums who listen to their kids going, mommy, 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 I want this. So I say that to say you have to have an element of flexibility when going into a pitch, because realistically, if you're pitching to different brands, then you need to be thinking about how you're marketing your product to those brands and how those brands are going to market that product to their specific customer group. So it's like, come on. So as soon as Connor said that, I was like, no, child, he ain't got no sense. Nick is out here telling people that 50% of the target market liked this product. Superdrug did not believe him. I can tell you that. Superdrug did not believe him. So I think what's important when you are putting a product to a brand for them to sell it on your behalf is it's that balance, okay? You want to have a level of flexibility around what you're willing to change to suit the brand, but maintain the integrity of the vision and what the product is about. I feel like Francesca went too far on one end and was willing to basically swap in her granny if that was an option for her to get the deal. And Connor was and Aaron was the complete opposite and weren't trying to budge an inch, because in his words, this turned out better than I thought. And please tell me why, if you are dodging bullets, to use Nick's words, I think, was it Nick or Connor? Lord, hold on a second, let me check. Connor. To use Connor's language, if you are dodging bullets in the actual pitch, how can Aaron interpret that as Well, that went well. What's wrong with these people? What is wrong with these people? Are they not in the room? Can they not read a room? Do they not understand what's going on here? I mean, just looking at the corner of your eye to see Tim, who was watching over the boys this week, to see his face twist upside down should have been a good indication that that did not go well. But okay then, okay, you know, this is what we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better. At this point, we know the girls are doing much better, and when we come into the boardroom, I'm pretty convinced that once again the girls are going to win and they've got this in the bag, and the guys are not willing to change anything or listen to their consumer group, and so on that basis they going in the bin. Okay. And when they get into the boardroom, there's a synopsis, and Lord Sugar gives both teams an opportunity to talk about what they did and why they did it, and to show him their product and their app. Francesca says her team let her down. They didn't follow her brief as precisely as she'd asked them to. They made the product therefore a little bit too young, but I think one of the comments that was made in a pitch was that the music and the attractions were very much targeted to 6 to 8 year olds. So she patted herself on the back and said, but, you know, my app definitely was targeted to the right age group. But Lord Sugar watches it and says, well, we don't get it. We don't really understand it. And then we have the boys. Of course, Lord Sugar says, I think I'm going to have to get a psychotherapist out to you guys because all your products look like turds. So he makes that comment. Naveed jumps in and says, listen, I did say it needed more colour. I did say that, you know, it needed a little bit more zhuzhing. Maybe not that terminology, but that's pretty much what he was saying. And so Lord Sugar said, so basically, Naveed, what you're saying is nobody listened to you. At this point, Aaron starts getting ready to dash him under the bus and says, well, you didn't say anything and you weren't loud enough and you didn't make your point, and so on and so forth. Anyway, it's time for us to read the results. So, Tim starts off by letting the boys know that their pitch to the healthcare provider yielded zero orders. Karen says, well, the healthcare provider thought there were some issues with the app and thought there were a couple of issues with the product, but actually they really enjoyed the pitch and they've ordered 1,000 units. Then she continues, the high street, which in this case was Superdrug, also liked the pitch, also we're okay with the product. I think they were happy with the changes that Francesca was suggesting she would make, and they ordered a whopping 10,000 units, giving the girls a combined total of 11,000 units. They returned to Tim for the verdict of the high street order book for the boys, for the men, and Superdrug ordered, drum roll, yeah, none. Absolutely none. So of course it means, as predicted, the girls won the task once again. So I thought the post-mortem for the girls was very interesting. They got sent off to go and celebrate. Francesca says, yes, my leadership did it. You know, they didn't quite do what they were supposed to do, but actually I led this team and I did a great job of doing it, and my concept was great and my pitching was brilliant. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically it's down to me. Catherine also gave herself some self-praise and said, I had a lot to do with the design of the logo, and I think, you know, I can take credit for that. I'm loving these two girls actually, because it's interesting that last week they were sort of very much pitted against each other, but they clearly have very similar personalities. So it'll be interesting to see how they get along as the tasks continue. I'm also intrigued to see what happens when they're separate. So if they get put in separate teams moving forward, what that might look like, because I think they would both bring the same sort of energy to a team, which is probably why they struggle to coexist in the same space. But hey, there it goes. And of course, the boys go to the dingy cafe to go through their post-mortem. And Lo and behold, Aaron turns on everybody. Anybody who criticised Aaron's toothbrush and said, yes, it looked like a turd, or they didn't like the design of it, Aaron said, well, where were you and what was your contribution? Where were you? What was your contribution? Poor Naveed got cussed down. Naveed is demonstrating an issue that can happen in business. One of the things that I've learned over the years that I've been in business is that the person who shouts the loudest isn't necessarily the best. They're just the person who shouts the loudest. But the problem is because they're the loudest, their message tends to get through. The reality is they get results. Can't be denied, okay? People like Naveed can be very quietly successful, but Naveed struggles to get his point across. And that proved to be the case when he went back into the boardroom. And he was lucky actually in a way that he didn't get brought back in, because I'm giving the game away, but Aaron could have easily targeted him as an easy target, because I think if Naveed gets brought into the boardroom, I don't see how he would be able to really stick up for himself. He, I think, has constructive things to say, but he struggles to get it out. And even when Lord Sugar's saying, come on Naveed, what are you saying? What are you saying? Speak, man, say. He's not saying anything, he's hesitant. So I feel like that will prove to be problematic for Naveed moving forward. Connor, says, listen, it's not my fault that I got rid of the gender neutral target, and I just did the best with what I had under the circumstances, and I just did my best to make it work. But ultimately, when they get back in the boardroom and Aaron's asked, who are you bringing back? He brings, unsurprisingly, Connor. Remember, Connor at the beginning of this was the expert in app development. Whilst Connor's app probably made a bit more sense than the girl's app did, it still was not executed well. And Whiffy, the wizard, oh no, okay, no. So he brings back Connor, and he actually brought back Nick. And Aaron's argument for bringing Nick back in, because Nick was fully horrified and wanted justification. And Aaron said, I ain't got to justify nothing, it's my decision, it's final. I told you, and this is how it's gonna be. Which made me giggle. But I think Nick ended up coming back in because Aaron's argument was Nick didn't contribute. But I think what Nick did is exactly the same thing that Harry did last week, which ended up getting Harry the sack, which was, I think Nick was ultimately seen as being disruptive in the sense of throwing back the accountability and saying, hey, you didn't do a good enough job. And I think at that point, Aaron's argument was, well, Nick, what did you do? What did you really bring to the table? I didn't see you bringing anything to the table. To be fair to Nick, I mean, Nick was the one who was trying to spin the storyline to tell everybody that actually, 50% of the target audience actually liked the product, one child, But he was doing his best to spin it. So I agreed with Nick in the sense that I didn't necessarily think that he deserved to go back in. Having said that, though, again, it speaks to how you go about defending yourself. And I feel like sometimes what these guys do is they throw too much accusation at each other at the wrong time. They go into the cafe and they start, well, I didn't tell you this and you didn't do that. And they start all that bickering and arguing. And what happens is that you'll then, if you're doing that with the PM, a little bit like Akshay last week, you're going to get up his nose. And then you're going to have the person in there who probably is at part in fault, hashtag Connor in this instance, and then somebody else because they spoke up. Nick. I'm being stabbed in the head by a light. Dearie me. Let's move that out of the way, shall we? Anyway, so he brings them back in. Now, Connor, for me, was the complete opposite of last week. Where Connor didn't have 2 words to say last week, Connor had all the words this week. And I didn't like that in places Connor was just blatantly dishonest, Oh, well, we tried with unisex and it didn't really work. Well, no, Connor, you didn't try. We saw you not try. You even admitted to Aaron that you didn't try, really, because you just couldn't see how this was a unisex product. All of that jazz, do you know what I mean? So, I'll be honest. There was a moment when I was thinking it's a toss-up between Connor, because Connor was responsible for the rubbish app. A toss-up between Aaron and Connor. Yeah, Connor is responsible for the rubbish app. Aaron responsible for the turd looking like toothbrush. And I really was convinced it was going to come down to between the two of them, because Nick just kept saying the same thing. Why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I here? And Aaron couldn't really fully justify his argument other than to say you didn't contribute, and then he couldn't really stand up to that argument anyway. So lo and behold, who gets sacked? Yeah, I'm creating my own sound effects here. Connor goes. And I think Connor ultimately went because Connor claimed to be an expert in app creation, and what he created was woeful. That, plus the fact that he ditched the unisex brief. He completely ditched it. And in so doing, he alienated at least 50% of the target audience, being little girls. He didn't really stick to Aaron's brief, and at least Aaron was clear in what his brief was, and I suspect that that's what saved him. But because Nick did a Harry and was very quick to say, well, listen, you know, you guys are rubbish kind of thing. He didn't say it like that, but he implied it. Lord Sugar said, Nick, you will be the PM in the next task, regardless of what that task is, because it's time for you to show me what you can do. So what can we learn from this week's episode? Well, I think there's a few key lessons here that we can pick up. Firstly, it goes back to this style of leadership. Let's do an Aaron in terms of being clear about what it is that we want from our team and having clarity in the brief. I don't think they could argue that they didn't know what he was asking for. Some of them said it was only magic and wizards. That's all you said, magic and wizards. But to be fair, when I listened to what Aaron had to say, I think these dudes need to start taking notes, by the way. I think it was clear. On the girls' side, don't do what Catherine did last week and what Francesca did this week, because she was lucky to get away with it. This authoritarian rule, this you will do what I tell you to do regardless of whether you like it or not, because these are my ideas, this is my vision, and I want to put it out there. And then when it didn't work so well, say you didn't execute my vision. And to be fair, the sub team didn't execute her vision fully because they didn't agree with it, and she wouldn't listen to what they had to say, so they just waited for her to leave and did their own thing. So that's the first thing in terms of leadership. Let's get a balance. Let's get the remit clear, but come on now, let's listen to what our teams have got to say, because both of the teams offered constructive feedback that, if used, would have yielded a better product on both sides and a better app on both sides. As team members, follow the brief that you're given. Now, I think it's absolutely fair for you to say, I'm not sure I agree with that, or I don't see it that way. And granted, in this sort of setting, unlike the real world, you don't have very much time to put your point across. So again, you need to be clear about your disagreement if you disagree, and maybe good at suggesting some solutions. But once the brief has been agreed, once the brief has been laid out, follow the brief. For 2 weeks in a row, the boys didn't really follow the brief, and it paid off in terms of them losing the task. And in Connor's case, it got him the sack. Okay, so get to grips with the brief, follow the brief. Don't just decide you know better, because if it goes wrong, it's going to be your fault. And in a business setting, a real business setting, it could be hugely costly. Thirdly, don't be so rigid with your vision. I think for both of the teams, there was a rigidity in the leaders to an extent when it came to their vision. Now, Francesca at least was willing to listen to the consumer, the customer, the ordering company. So Francesca at that point showed flexibility. Sure, we can make those changes. Sure, we can make those amendments. The fact that Aaron absolutely refused to make any changes to that toothbrush when he was told it looks like a turd, would you consider changing it? That lack of flexibility, I think, cost him any chance of any order from that high street provider. So again, show flexibility when it comes to your customer base. When you get the market research, listen to what people are saying, And even without the market research, you have an element of research in the room, your team. And to be fair, rarely is the entire team wrong. So listen, because if they're asking those questions, so will other people. And I think it's fair to say that, again, you know, having that flexibility, listening to the research, being willing to make some changes is what really won Francesca the task in terms of just being flexible. So ensure you do that, or really do consider it. And for the boys, please, please, please stop using brown. Really, stop using brown in your products and in your logos. Stop using brown. You are not skillful enough to execute it in a way where it doesn't look like a pile of... I'll let you finish that sentence yourself. So that's my review for this week. As I say, if you agreed with anything I've had to say, or if you've experienced any of these things, I would love for you to comment below and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for sticking with me until this point. I really do appreciate it. Of course, I'm going to be back with another review real soon for episode 3 of The Apprentice, so please do keep an eye out for that. If you click the subscribe and that notification bell, you'll find out when I have a new upload. And in the middle of all of that, you will also get some content from the Financial Style Show, which is a radio show which goes out once a week, which the link again is in the description if you ever want to listen to it, where I talk about business and consumer affairs every single week. It's been a pleasure. I'll be back with the next one soon, and in the meantime, have a very positive business, non-poo-poo product week. See you for the next one.